So you want to make your own adventure within the Dark Eye, the TTRPG from Germany that we've been looking at. Now, we've looked at all of the aspects. All that remains is for us to actually create an adventure. How easy is it to do? Well, let's see here. Hello and welcome to this episode of the How to Be a Great GM, where we are reviewing The Dark Eye TTRPG produced by Ulysses Spiel. Now, today is a slightly different video to what I have done before, where we are prepping an adventure for the TTRPG. What I've decided to do is I've set up a screen, I beg your pardon, I've set up a screen for us to be able to share. So here it is. This is the screen I've set up. What I'm going to be doing is I've already created the adventure part. Now, if you want to know how to create adventures, there are plenty of videos on this channel on how to do that. But I thought it would be better if you joined me on a journey as I'm creating the adventure, trying to find the rules in the rule book that will support this adventure. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And I have to say, I think this is going to be a very exciting thing to see exactly how these adventures can be created using the book. Now, I'm going to be using the core rule book and possibly the bestiary as and when I need to. So you'll have to forgive me if I have to change tabs and that sort of thing. It does take a little bit of setup to get this right so that it's as seamless as possible and live as well. I'm trying not to edit, although that hasn't worked so well so far. If you want to pick up a copy of Ulysses Spiel's game, The Dark Eye, an alternative TTRPG to play and explore in, head on over to Ulysses-US and you'll be able to find all of that wonderful stuff. The link is down below and you get a discount if you use our link to pick up the books. Not that they are very pricey to begin with. So go check them out, and of course there's more information at the end of today's video. Okay, let's get started. So let's have a look at the adventure that I've created. It's a straightforward one. I'm doing a one-shot here, folks. This is a 3-hour-long campaign, or 3-hour-long adventure, I should say. It's not a campaign. And the players that I have are my usual suspects that we used for Torg. And if that taught me anything, these guys love to roleplay. And that's the kind of role-playing groups that I like to play with. So with that in mind, I've designed this adventure, which I already think is too long. But this is the idea. Now, the Dark Eye, it features on the cover of the book, you can see that wonderful swirling thing, is this mysterious object that comes from the world of Aventura and gives the role-playing game its name. So I decided, well, let's do an adventure where we steal one of those things, just because, well, it could be fun. Now, of course, I am completely and utterly abusing the powers of the Dark Eye. I was actually speaking to one of the lead creators of the Dark Eye from Germany, and he was telling me all of the different powers, functions, and abilities and things. And I went, well, I like that, but let's move on. So the first important thing to bear in mind is that magical items within Aventuria, the setting within Dark Eye, are extremely rare and oftentimes are temporary or will only last for a certain amount of time before losing their power. So that makes finding Dark Eyes, the Dark Eye, or the Dark Eyes, there are many of them apparently, very, very powerful and very special and usually reserved for high level. We're not going to do that. We're going to have a bunch of adventurers who stumble across it. So to begin with, the Dark Eye, a sphere of power, is within the grasp of the heroes. Now, there is a room before that the PCs have to cross, and that has a puzzle. So I've decided I'm going to put my PCs right into the middle of it. I've given them a brief to create heroes who would possibly be adventurers or tomb robbers or thieves, one of the three. So hopefully they're going to take that to heart, although knowing them, they're going to come up with some amazing options anyway. But the idea is that we need to have a puzzle floor. Now, I haven't worked out what that puzzle is. I don't particularly care at this point in time. I will figure that out as we go through this process. So the first thing that we have to look at when it comes to puzzles is how do we resolve puzzles within our chosen system? How does that work? So if I come over here to the core rulebook, which you can see, I also have the bestiary available for monsters when I need to. This is, by the way, my usual kind of process in terms of building kinds of things. Now, the camera is actually hiding the chapters. So I am going to go here to skills, because I think skills is where it's at. I think skills are going to be the things that are going to work here for the puzzle. I want it to be a skills challenge because one of the most important elements, I find anyway, of the Dark Eye is the skills. So let's do a refresher on the skills. I'm going to close this now so we get a little bit of a bigger screen. And yeah, so let's see now. Skill group checks. This is an interesting one. Instead of keeping track of which 3 attributes you need for each skill, you may instead make a skill group check. This check works exactly like a regular skill check, except that all skills in the skill group use the same attributes for checks. So that could be an interesting one to look at. Now, all of these gray blocks, by the way, folks, those are optional rules that you can use for your game. You can add these kind of things in. Now, what we're going to look at is not particularly that. We are going to say, okay, cool. So firstly, these are the modifiers for checks, right? Requirements for routine checks. And the quality levels. Now, if you remember, the quality levels was how many skill points you had left in your pool after you had completed your challenge. So there's the direct table there. If we really want to refer to that, we could have a quality 2 requirement to pass. So I think that's what we're going to type in straight away. So let me move my mic a little bit. I hope you're not hearing awful banging. Maybe I'm going to lift it up a bit. There we go. Okay, so we're going to say that the quality level, I'm going to say they need a quality level 3 to pass. So they need to have 7 to 9 skill points over and above. No, that's very tough. Let's do it 2. 4 to 6 skill points over and above what they need. So I'm just going to make a note here. So it's 4 to 6 skill pool left. Okay. So that's one of the important things. And I think that's going to be interesting. And where is the list of skills? So that's the next sort of kind of thing that I'm looking for. Okay, so we've got some physical skills in here. Body control, applications, acrobatics, balance, combat maneuver. Yes, I like that. So we're going to go with body control. Now, what I'm going to be doing in this puzzle is I think that we need to have the characters. Let's think about this puzzle for a moment. Let's have the characters come across, oh, this is an interesting one. The characters come across a room where there are beams across, wooden beams or stone beams, across a floor of spikes, let's say, for example. And they have to walk along these beams, but the moment they step on the first beam, beams in front of them slide out, they disappear. So they have to work out which beams to stand on and time it correctly so that they don't cause beams to slide away whilst they're on top of it. Why can't they fly or climb over it? The ceiling is, say, 40 foot above them, and the walls, let's make it a 20-foot wide corridor. I'm not sure yet, I haven't drawn the map. Let's make it a 20-foot wide corridor. And the pit is 100 foot down, so if they fall, they're going to die. That would be an interesting one right at the beginning of the adventure. But nonetheless, that's the idea. Okay, so I'm going to put here puzzle is sliding balancing beams that change position based on pressure on the beams, i.e. they shift and move. PCs must work out which beams to stand on in which combination. Okay, so I'm going to be using body control because that skill sounds to me exactly right. Acrobatics, balance, combat maneuvers, jumping, running, squirming, that sort of thing. Okay, good. So body control, I'm going to make a note here, is agility, and constitution. Okay, that's interesting one. All right, so that's body control, and I think that should be for everybody who is on the beams. I think that should be quite fun. Climbing, I don't feel like they're climbing. I feel like they're balancing. I feel like they are balancing. Let's see, perception. No, I don't think it's perception. I don't think perception is useful here. I think we can use that later on. Self-control. Control. Ignore distractions, resist torture, stay conscious. No, we don't need that. It's not a stealth check. It's not a disguise. Not etiquette. Not empathy. Not intimidation. And the reason why I'm not going to the list, by the way, folks, is because I haven't memorized what all of these skills are. So a lot of them I'm going, what does this do exactly? How does this work, etc., etc., etc. So that's fine. I don't want each of them, or maybe each of them is going to have to make a roll, but I don't particularly like that idea. Let's see what else we've got. We've got survival. Oh, we have tracking. I quite like the idea of tracking. Now, I know that tracking traditionally, applications, animal tracks, concealed tracks, humanoid tracks, that's traditionally what tracking is all about. But I think it's also about seeing what beams have more dust on them than others, which ones have been stepped on before. So I think tracking could be another one. So let's put in here tracking, and that is courage, intelligence, and agility. Okay, good. So the agility folk are definitely going to be winning here if they've got quite high agility. Now, if they don't have high agility, I expect one of them to try and walk across. Yes, so let me spell combination correctly. Combination. So if I am expecting one of them to walk across, they might try and do this. Like, well, I've got an agility of 18. I can never fit. Well, it'll only be 14 or 15. I think we're going with experience level for the level set for the game. So they will be 15 or 16, I think, if they take an elvish race or a dwarvish race. So 16, that's a pretty good chance of success there. That's what, 80% chance of success. So they might try and send one person across with a rope, but the beams don't slide if there is less than 2 people on them. So in other words, you have to do this in a team. You have to have at least 2 people to cause the beams to move. So that prevents one character from just having to do this and the rest sitting back and doing nothing. I do try and do that when I'm creating adventures, by the way, is trying to figure out how exactly can I get the whole party involved. So now we move on to the knowledge skills, which I think is going to be really, 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 really interesting one. Astronomy, no. Geography, no. History. History is always a favorite in terms of falling back on that, but I see there's magical lore here. The hero, no. Application, analyst, artifacts, magical beings, rituals, spells. I think magical lore could be quite useful. Or math. Wow. I like that. I like that. I think we're going to go with math. I think math is much more terrifying. If you said to me, make a math check in the middle of a game, I would freak out. So they're going to make a math check, and that is sagacity. Sagacity again. And then intelligence. It's like, well, listen here, if you are like me, you are going to die horribly. So there's 3 skill challenges. I think that's more than enough. Oh, mechanics could work quite well too. Complicated systems, hydraulics, and levers. Okay, it's not math. Mechanics is way better. What a nice skill to have in there. You know, it's funny how you think about it and you go, well, what would you use for mechanics in, say, one of the other more popular systems? Would you go with something like investigate for this? I suppose you'd use investigate, perception. But I like this. Body control, tracking, and mechanics. So I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so that's how we're going to get across that one. This is the combat sort of challenge, so I think that's quite cool. And then they arrive. The eye can be removed. The PCs have an object of equal weight. It must just be swapped out. So I was kind of thinking the Indiana Jones type of thing, swap the eye, put a weight of equal measure upon it. So I don't think that that's going to be particularly dangerous. We have just done the skill challenge of getting past that, but I do feel that this one is something that needs a skill check to be done. And I think the math, would it be the math to judge the weight? I think I'm gonna go with math here, because then that's well, let's see. So we'll do math. And again, that is sagacity, intelligence. But I feel like it should be a, well, we're going to just do the math. And the reason why I'm doing this, by the way, folks, is because there's lots of description. They're going to be tense. They're going to be nervous. We'll throw in descriptions of the room. Let's just put in a little description here quickly. The room is wreathed in sculptures of beings rising from an infernal hell into the light. Okay, because that's going to presage what happens. We then have a shade who appears and warns them not to use it. It speaks an ancient and terrible language. Now, if there's one thing that the Dark Eye has, it's languages. I'm actually going to need to open another book for that. So I'm going to open that book up quickly. And so here we go. We've got the Aventuria Almanac. Let's open up that thumbnail and let's go looking for languages. I think they're around here somewhere. I know I could use a search thing. Here we go. Languages and dialects. Right. And now we can close that. So the languages and dialects, language specialization, Garethi. All right. So these are all the different languages and things that are out there. I think that's quite cool. Yeah, I think we want a language that's pretty scary or something that's pretty dark. And I think that could be quite fun to play with. What I do like here is I've just seen this little block here where they're giving us the different greetings in the different languages. And I think that this is going to really help us here. So I'm going to just zoom in a little bit. No, that's fine. Sorry, wrong button. Let's just go to 100% here. And close that one up. So you can see here that we've got customary greetings, customary form of greetings. Which one sounds the most terrifying? Thorwalian, Hej, or Nujuka, Paika, or Alani, Binurdam. No, that sounds way too fun. Ragalan, Goroshem. Ragalani. Let's say, so he's going to be talking in, speaks in Ragalan. Ragalanti, I suppose. Ragalan. Well, whatever, but in my world is speaks Ragalan, Isdira, which is the Elvish. I'm going to just put in brackets Elvish. And then I suppose he would speak Talamedia. All right, so he will say something along the lines of, he's speaking Ragalan, so that's cool. Garoshem. And then he will speak in Talamedia, Alan. And then Elvish, Sanyaba. It's like Klingon. It's really cool. All right, so this is the shade, and the shade is going to warn them not to touch the eye. If they continue to touch the eye, though, then that's when we got to have a monster. So I'm going to go into the bestiary here, and basically, let's go to the various monsters and things. And again, like I said, the camera is right in the way, so excuse me here as I do just that. And no, wrong one. That one. Okay, you see, this is what happens. Oh, this is my favorite one, death squirrels. These little death squirrels are terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. But I think we have a minor spirit here. And let's close that up. Again, let's go to 100%. So the minor spirit is going to be doing what exactly? And this is something that's worth looking at. It's got all of its values. Okay, so the most important thing, I think anyway, is its life points. It only has 5, so that's very weak. It has arcane energy of 15. It has no karma points. And its initiative is 12 plus a d6, so it's quite quick. It is quite quick, and then it's got a lot of stats here, but they're all in the average of 12. So that's interesting. Their elementals, minor spirits do not flee, minor spirits do not fight. They dodge or until destroyed. Okay, so minor spirit won't work for us. That's a pity. All right, so that's minor spirit. Let's look somewhere else. I'm going to use skeletons later, so maybe this one should be a zombie. What do zombies do? Let's have a look at what zombies do in the Dark Eye. So we've got a nice big right up there. Let's see. So we've got, where's their life points? 16 life points. Okay, cool. So I do like that. And I'm just looking at all of the various values here. Its attack is 8. Damage is 1d6 plus 4 with the disease. I don't like the idea of the disease. Or maybe the disease could be quite fun. Okay, combat behavior, zombies obey their summoner's commands, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to ignore that because I just need a sort of undead-like creature. Zombies do not flee, don't care. Zombies are slow and can be outrun. Yeah, well, oh, that would be interesting. That would be interesting. That's quite inspiring, actually. Okay, but they're a disease carrier. Can be a tyrant. Can transmit wounds. Roll 1d20 for each full 10 damage points they inflict. 1 to 3, no disease. 11 to 20, wound fever. If a hero is infected, the GM must make a disease check. See the core rule book, page 343, for more information about the wound fever. Extremely sensitive to sunlight. Pack zombie attacking with the same opponent receive a +1 attack per zombie after the first. Okay, I like that. I'm going to use the zombie stats. I'm going to use the zombie stats. So this is page 89. So I'm going to say here, page 89 of the bestiary. Zombie. And I'm going to say it's times 4. I want this to be a bit of a tough fight. So I'm going to have this shade that was supposed to speak to them. I'm going to have the shade. I'm going to have the shade basically appear before them. I realize that this might be quite small for you guys to read, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to have the shade appear before them, warn them, Garashem, Alan, Sayaba, all that kind of wonderful stuff. And then I'm going to have it turn into 4 zombies effectively, but it will be 4 versions of the same shade. So it's like the Holy Trinity, only not. It will be this terrible beastie thing. So I think that could be quite fun. I'm just going to try and make that a little bit bigger. Okay, so then we get to the eyes removed and the temple seems fine. Then the eye illuminates. Now, the dark eye has quite a lot of information. I think he said 196. So let me just go to page 196 in the email. No, that can't be right. I must have misremembered it. Okay. Nonetheless, the dark eye is going to do something. I think I wanted it to open up. I think it wants to light up and scare the hell out of these creatures that have now disturbed its rest or dared to violate it, I suppose you could say. And so I'm going to open up these ones and go to... let's see, I suppose it would be physical skills. I think we actually have passed what it was already. So not body control, not carousing, not climbing. And again, this is me being very unfamiliar with the system. So I'm probably choosing the wrong skills, but I believe this is how you kind of go around it. This is what you do when you are learning a new rule system, is say, okay, well, I think this will work, or I think that will work. Let me try this, and let me try that. And then you learn it and basically go from there. So I think the eye is going to illuminate, and that is going to require everyone to make a willpower check, and that is courage, intelligence, and charisma. Okay, and I'm going to say quality level of 1 because it's weird, but they know, they kind of done a little bit of research. Illuminates, that gives them that, so that's cool. Then hundreds of skeletons rise up and begin attacking the party. So this depends on how well the zombie attack has gone as to just how many skeletons we're going to use. I know that they do have skeletons here. So that was Z. So let's just go Yeti. Yetis are fun. Oh, what's that? That's terrifying. That's a mandarin. What do they call it? They call it a giant bear. Way of life. No, a swamp reek. That's interesting. That's interesting. One of the most terrifying of the giant monkeys, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so here we go. Skeleton, good. We've got the skeletons. Skeletons are really easy, I think. Life points 14, so they're a little bit weaker than zombies, which is fine. No magic, no karma. Initiative is 8 plus 1d6, so they're not likely to be going first. Their attacks are pretty mundane, unlikely to succeed. And then they've got their skills, combat behavior, special rules, impervious to daggers. Oh yes, this is an interesting one. Impervious to daggers, fencing weapons, and ranged weapons. Daggers, fencing weapons, and ranged weapons, with the exception of the throwing dagger and spears, inflict only half damage against skeletons. However, the weapons consecrated to the god of death inflict more weapons. Okay, they're susceptible to impact weapons. I mean, this kind of stuff makes sense, right? It's really cool. So I'm going to throw in these skeletons, and this is page 77. So skeletons, Page 77 of the bestiary. Okay, cool. So I quite like that. The temple begins to shake as the eye tries to protect itself from the crumbling kind of stuff. So then they have to escape the temple. And that is going to be another skill challenge that they have to do, probably whilst being chased by the skeletons. So I do like that. Now, I don't want it to be the same as before, where it was agility, 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 agility. I think we can do that, but I want it to be a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to throw in here, does their survival equate with what I think a survival is? Build campsite, find campsite, make fire. Okay, no, not particularly. Not particularly. We've used tracking before, so I don't want to overuse that. I think geography is an interesting one. I know that they're talking about actual physical geography, but is there a pathfinding? I did see Streetwise somewhere, but I think that's more about going shopping and finding out where to buy stuff. So, you know what? I am going to say that there's a geography check because they have to remember their way back out again. So this is going to be geography. And geography is sagacity. Now, the reason why I'm writing this down is because I really don't want to have thousands of pages and things open in front of me. I think that would be very bad. So I'm going to say it's geography or history. Can they remember the paths that they took before, or do they forget? So that's quite fun. I mean, well, as a matter of fact, as I've typed it out, it's like they are identical skills, right? So that's not going to help me. I mean, I'll give it to them. Then maybe one of them will have it, and then that'll give them an advantage. I also want them to do... we've used mechanics before because it was so cool. I liked mechanics. I really did. Craft skills? No, they're not building anything. I don't think they're building anything. That doesn't make sense to me. I'm sorry I'm rambling, but I really wanted to show you the process that I go through. And this is it, is just sort of looking and going, well, this could be interesting. That could be exciting. Let's see here. Here's the list of all the skills that we could use. Social's not going to really help. Orienteering might work. So yeah, let's do orienteering. I'm assuming it's doing what it says it does, right? Which is finding the path and knowing where they are and that sort of thing. It's a tough one too if you're stupid. Okay, so these are all intelligence checks. So I think that's a bit terrifying. So I'm going to say, well, then let's bring in something like orienteering or ropes. Oopsie, ropes. And that is, I saw that there. Ropes is sagacity, dexterity, and strength. I think that's enough. I think that's more than enough. I think that's okay. And then finally, the Dark Eye, once they're free of the temple, the Dark Eye now tries to possess one of the characters. And so we go, okay, cool. Well, I think that's willpower. If ever there was one, there was that skill, willpower. I'm just trying to see where it comes from. It's a social skill, willpower. And that is courage. I like this. Intelligence and charisma. So we've kind of worked our way through. We've used courage, we've used intelligence, we've got lots of sagacity, lots of dexterity or agility, I suppose. Yeah, well, I think we've kind of covered it all. A little bit of charisma in there as well. So I think that's pretty fun. And then they're going to fight the eye, but I think the eye is just going to be so terrifying that that's something that's going to escape, actually. The eye then escapes. I think that's going to be more interesting, and I think by then the players will be done. So that's it, folks. That's how I do it. That's how I build an adventure, whether it's in the Dark Eye or anywhere else for that matter. I do think that if you look at that, you go, okay, cool. That's pretty straightforward stuff. It's what we expected. Making these kind of notes, I think, will be a much better way in terms of handling the Dark Eye, rather than saying, okay, give me a geography check, and then the players going, geography, what's the value of geography? Okay, I've got a 14 in geography, and then going, oh, but hang on, what do I have to do to actually get geography? If you, as the GM, have got this page open, and you can go, okay, geography, oh, that's sagacity, sagacity, intelligence. Okay, and then they roll sagacity, sagacity, intelligence, and we'll see what happens. The plan is that I have asked my players to get 3 different colored D20s, not to necessarily get 7 or 8, as the case might be, that are based on the colors that Dark Eye recommends, but that, yes, they get these different colors so that they can then say, okay, well, blue is always first, red is always second, and green is always third, and so when I roll, that's the combination, and they sort of stick to that. I think that's going to help make it speed up a little bit. I will now go and reread how combat works just to make sure that I'm on the right page there. And yeah, we're going to see how this works out. I have no idea in terms of the balance. And I hope you noticed that whilst I was doing the character creation, the adventure creation, I should say, at no point was I saying, okay, well, I wanted 4 zombies because they get bonuses for being 4 zombies. But with skeletons, I left it kind of blank going, it could be anything. It really could be anything. It really doesn't matter. It's like, well, it could go here, it could go there, it could go there. And I think that this is going to be an interesting one. I didn't want to take it. I didn't want to take the adventure into town because otherwise the players could quite easily spend an hour in town. Towns for me generally spin out so many more adventures and seeds and that sort of thing. I can't help myself really. When characters go into town, they walk into this wall of adventures, and so I didn't want that. So I think this is going to be pretty straightforward. It's going to demonstrate combat. It's going to demonstrate the skill challenges. There's a little bit of lore in here, but again, not too much. It's a one-shot. My players are not going to walk away from this going, you know, oh, the lore was so rich. I want them to walk away from it going, well, that's interesting. That's interesting. I wish we could go back and carry on playing. That's really what we want. That is really, really, really what we want in terms of a one-shot. You want people to want to play more, but not to leave feeling that they are open-ended and it's like, oh, it didn't really resolve anything. So anyway, those are my thoughts on the matter. And yes, this is the last in the series on the Dark Eye that we will be doing on this channel. All 4 videos collectively, I think, give you a pretty good insight into this very remarkable game. And next week sees the playthrough actually taking place. So it will be interesting to see what the players think of that. Thank you for your support in watching these videos and for showing the Dark Eye that there is definitely space for it on all of our bookshelves. Speaking of which, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you follow the link down below, you will find your way over to Ulysses-US, which will give you access to the English versions of The Dark Eye. If you want to get German versions of Das Schwarze Auge, then you would head on over to Ulysses and Spiel for that to go and find the German versions. And there are many more books in German than there are in English. They're in the conversion process, so bear with them. It is a growing TTRPG. It's not something that's just going to happen and then disappear. So this is something that if you want to invest in a new system, this could be the one for you. So a big thank you to them for sponsoring all of these videos and allowing us to explore this very interesting, I would say anyway, system. And to all of you, as I said, for supporting and watching. Until next time, however, I wish you and yours the very happiest of gaming.